Hello, and welcome to Arts and Entertainment.
With Chris and Randall.
I'm Chris,
I'm Randall.
and today we have a special guest joining us.
Today joining us is my brother, Nick Juntilla. And the reason
Welcome, Nick.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Nick. The reason my brother is here is because
Don't say it's a mystery. These are mystery guests, Randall.
But there's clues.
There's clues. Well, only to the people who can see us. To those of you listening, you're going, what's going on? So before we start the show, I always like to say, hey, if you enjoy watching our show or listening to our show, please like, subscribe, and share. Every Thursday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, we put out a new edition on all podcast formats. If you have any ideas, suggestions, comments, Randall, what's the best way to reach us?
Well, check out our website, chrisandrandall.com. There's a bunch of ways to reach us there. We're pretty popular on Facebook. You can send us a message on there.
Awesome. Yeah, we'd love to know, especially today's episode, what you thought, how your feelings are. Did we explain things in a way that makes sense? So I'm going to start today's show, with a brief little story. So back in early October of last year, a guy named Michael Winkleman, who lives in South Carolina, he's a 39-year-old digital artist, and he goes by the name Beeple. And he noticed increasing talk on online circles about a technology called NFT, which stands for non-fungible tokens, and how NFTs are a tool for providing proof of ownership for digital asset. Anyway, he is making artwork on Instagram, and these artworks, he calls them every day. And, how would I describe them? If you know Banksy or Jeff Koons or Keith Haring, it's that kind of, or silly or Banksy, iconic art that is somewhat illustrative, somewhat satirical. He has 2 million followers on Instagram. So on October 30th, Winkleman, aka Beeple, launched his first drop of 3 artworks on the NFT marketplace, Nifty Gateway, to test the saleability. One piece is called Politics is Bullshit. The work comes in an edition of 100 at a cost of $1 for each edition. A core feature of the blockchain technology is immutability, which is what this is on. It's on a blockchain. All transactions are recorded and are permanent and transparent, which means that any NFT purchase or sale is visible to the public. So as of last month, the edition has resold for as much as $600,000. This past December, Beeple put together another drop, which included what he calls the complete MF collection, which is a selection of everyday's images such as a skinless corpse and a giant Nintendo characters in a single NFT, which came with the physical accessories, including a digital picture frame as further evidence of authenticity and a purported sample of the artist's hair, Beeple's hair. The winning bid for this work of NFT art was $777. $700,700. It was just, Randall, help me here.
700,000. 700. It's hard to say, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah. It's around 700,000 and 70,000 and 7,000 more. Add that together.
It's 6 sevens, unless it was 70 cents. We're having a hard time with the math.
They wanted to do. The guy wanted to bid all sevens.
All sevens. So under $800,000, folks. And then last month, a mosaic of pieces. These are his everydays that he put together over 13 years, called Everydays, the first 5,000 days, was auctioned off at the famous Christie's auction house as an NFT. The opening bid began at $100 with an estimated selling price of unknown. On March 11, the piece, this NFT art called Every Day is the First 5,000 Days, sold for $60 million. Isn't that amazing, Randall?
That's a lot of money.
Do you know, Randall, that this makes Winkleman the third most expensive? So he is there are only two other artists alive today who have actually made more money on a single work of art. Jeff Koons for Rabbit and David Hockney for Portrait of an Artist, Pool with Two Picture Figures. And those two sold roughly around $90 million. So here's a guy who 4 months ago was making no money, and now he's the third highest paid living artist. Damien Hirst, who is one of the highest paid living artists, albeit not in the top 3, he's like in the top 7. He reached out to Winkleman on his iPhone. He said, my 15-year-old son showed me your work a while ago. This is fucking great. Congratulations, you're awesome. So yes, so Beepsy is now recognized by artists as an artist. And of course, art critics are up in arms because how can this happen? So I'm a 55-year-old guy. I do know a lot about painting, but I know nothing about NFT. In fact, I'll be honest with you, until March 11th, when this piece of work sold, I didn't even know such a thing existed. Randall, did you know much about this world prior to the show?
No, I didn't know much about it. I didn't, no.
And it's weird because I rely on Randall to basically do all the tech stuff. You know, like when we do stuff that's hip and cutting edge, that's a Randall thing. And I thought, you know, if only we had someone who was like Randall, but just younger and smarter. And then, of course, I realized, Randall, you always have a smarter, younger version of you.
Yeah,
that's why Nick is
him.
here.
It's my brother Nick, and the reason he's on the show is because Nick has been working in the cryptocurrency space for many years, and you're a computer programmer, right, Nick?
Yep, that's right. I've been working in cryptocurrency since probably 2015, 2014, around there.
Oh my God, you came in really at the beginning.
It was early. Yeah, it was early. I mean, I knew about it before then, but I wasn't actually, I knew about Bitcoin when it was pennies or whatever, but I was still, at that point, I was still, this is silly, I wasn't actually into it. It wasn't until like 2014, 2015 when I actually got into it. But by that time, Bitcoin was worth about $210 or something.
What is Bitcoin worth now?
$60,000.
Oh my Lord! My Lord! All right, I'm gonna ask Nick. I'm gonna ask you the questions that only a guy my age who knows nothing. I don't even know how to operate my microwave. Okay, I'm gonna ask you stupid people questions, and then Randall will ask you smart people questions, and hopefully, eventually, we'll get around to. So I'm gonna ask you the simple questions first, which is, what is an NFT?
All right. An NFT is an ownership record, basically. It's an ID that's saved into a public database, which is the blockchain. You can think of the blockchain as a public database, and everybody has the same copy of that database. And then an NFT is an ID on that database that saves there, like say it's ID 1,422,000. And then that ID has one owner. And then that owner is an Ethereum address. So the person who bought
Ethereum?
Sorry. Yeah. Actually, it doesn't have to be Ethereum, but let me explain. So Ethereum is a blockchain. Like Bitcoin is one blockchain, and then Ethereum is another blockchain. And the reason why we have two different blockchains and why everybody doesn't just use Bitcoin is because Ethereum, it has more features than Bitcoin. So you can't really do NFTs the way that NFTs are done currently with all these NFT markets and the Beeple sale and stuff like that. You can't really do them on Bitcoin.
Hey, so Nick, isn't an NFT a feature they built into Ethereum, the Ethereum blockchain, from the start? I think I read that.
So it was always capable of doing this. Ethereum was always capable of doing this sort of thing. But it wasn't until about the end of 2017 when CryptoKitties was launched that there was an official standard of how to do this, and then everybody sort of agreed on the way that this should be done.
Was CryptoKitties?
What is CryptoKitties? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just want to ask: did CryptoKitties help invent the standard, or did the standard come about, or did they invent the standard and then CryptoKitties took advantage of it?
Well, they did actually totally, and they dictated the standard.
What is CryptoKitties? I gotta
ask.
Yeah,
Nick, go for it. Explain to Chris and people that don't know what CryptoKitties is, because CryptoKitties is the reason NFTs exist, is what you're saying.
Right. They are. I mean, they would have come to exist, but not in the format they are today. There was pressure to make NFTs or something like this, but the company behind CryptoKitties, is it Dapper Labs? I can't remember. So they stepped in and said, this is going to be the standard. They proposed it to the community. The community weighed in and said, that looks good. And then they started using that standard first, because they created the first product for it. And so they created a game called CryptoKitties. And the idea of the game was that you buy these tokens with Ethereum, which is the money for the Ethereum blockchain. You buy these token IDs. When you buy one, it just means that token ID now is only unlockable by your Ethereum address. So you're the only one who can transfer it to the next person. So it's like this big game of who's of hot potato, and the person who has that ID, who owns that ID, is the only one who can unlock it and transfer it to the next guy.
Would you say
that's what you mean by the token?
The token is the potato, is the CryptoKitty. It's like whoever's address is assigned as the owner for that ID is the only person who can change who the owner is, and then the next person becomes the next person who can assign it and change it.
So Nick,
this is kind of, I'm sorry, I just want to finish my thought. So in the world of art, in the world of painting, for example, there's a thing called provenance. I can never say that word correctly, and it's the legal authentication that this work is the real work of art, and it normally lists all the people who have owned the artwork, so that you can kind of see, since it came from the artist, who are the other people who've owned it. So
right.
Is it kind of like that?
Yeah. So so there's this whole chain of ownership that goes back to the original, to the person who originally minted. That's the term for it. Is the person who created the information about this ID on the blockchain in the first place. And so that the first owner of these IDs is considered the creator. And so in the case of Beeple, for instance, the first owner is the artist Beeple, and it can be traced back to an address that is owned by Beeple. In some cases, it's owned by a publishing company. It's not actually owned by the artist Beeple himself.
And when you say publishing company, you mean the company that made the token?
Right, the company that made the token, which in that case is Maker's Place, I believe.
So just to clarify, the blockchain is a record of ownership forever of the token.
Right.
And it's public. It's completely public, and it's decentralized. No one owns it.
Yeah, no one owns it, and so that's what's so special about this is that. So if someone were to steal a piece of art, from a museum, from the Louvre, and now they have it, they would have it in their possession, and that's possible. Somebody can steal a piece of art. If somebody were to come into your house and steal your baseball card collection, that's a possibility. Right now, it's mathematically impossible for someone to steal the Beeple painting, the Beeple NFT.
And that's because cryptocurrency, the blockchain, is based on an impossible to break code.
Right.
Is that a way of describing it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where all the value comes from, really, is in that mathematical sort of impossibility to break this encryption.
So in other words, for those of you who are just listening as opposed to watching, right now in the background is NFT art. And all I did was I went online and I copied it. And anybody can copy or reproduce this work, but the I was able to find out that the artist does own the copyright, correct? It's
Yeah,
that.
so
Yes, that's illegal.
So what is actually being owned by owning the token is I guess somewhat similar to just owning the provenance.
it's
Provenance.
you're owning an ID that was owned by the artist, or who was owned by a publishing company that the artist approved of, and so everybody recognizes the provenance of that token, and the picture itself is just a pretty image that's placed on top of that token ID.
Now, the picture itself is available to anyone. Is that correct? The art itself?
Yeah, the art, anybody can look at that art at any time. There's no limitations who can see that art at all.
I guess I want to interject for a minute here, Chris. Chris has more questions, but I think this is one of the things that really sets apart this idea of NFT art, crypto art, sets it apart from like traditional art, because if you bought a piece of art and you put it in your bedroom, no one could ever see it. But these people are buying NFT art and everybody can see it forever, which is quite different.
Literally, the only right that the blockchain guarantees the owner, there's only one right or privilege that the owner of an NFT has, and it's one right and one right only, and that is to transfer the ownership to somebody else.
That's so fascinating because, if you think about it, and I guess it's the very nature of digital art, which just, you're more of an expert on this. How would you describe what is digital art in the most technical sense of the word? Art that is created through software? Is that how you describe it?
Well, right now, these NFTs, some of them are just high quality photos of original, of paintings and like physical art.
Like that Mona Lisa right behind you with the pixelated face cover?
Yeah, well, that one was somebody pixelated it, so they turned into something new.
That's a Beeple, Chris.
And that, yeah. So my point is this, is that, video art and has been around since the late 60s. Even cinema, just people, Dollywood experiment with film. So there has been projection, there has been film and TV and video in contemporary art for quite a long time now, but that's still different, isn't it? I mean, in that it's not the same thing as saying a videotape or a film. It's
yeah, I think the thing about this art is not the art itself. So it's not this, what's special about these NFTs is not the art. It's not the pictures. It's not, those are side effects. What's special about these NFTs is the technology and the process. So what you're buying is like a sentiment from the artist. You're buying you're supporting the artist in a way. You're buying, like, the artist has agreed to issue 10 tokens that come from that artist. It's like the artist is opening their heart to you and saying, these are 10 pieces of me, and it's token IDs 1 through 52. And this is what those token IDs mean to me. And if you support me, then buy one of these tokens. And that's kind of, and because of how the technology works for this, they can actually sell those, and the money goes straight to the artist. And on
some of these websites like Nifty Gateway, I know every single sale of that token in perpetuity, some percent goes to the artist. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's up to the marketplace to implement. Some you can implement it or not. On OpenSea, you can have a royalty for your collection that goes on forever. And Nifty, it's implemented different ways on different platforms.
That's a good. Let me ask you that question, because I guess my first question is, well, actually, before I get to that question, I think this is a good time to say, explain how your business that you work in fits into this equation. What is it that you guys do at your company?
Sure. So So my company, I mean, this is really fitting. We happen to be talking about this because my company is the #1 NFT app in the App Store right now. Actually, both app stores. And
what's it called again, so people can know when they go to the App Store?
Yeah, it's called OwnerFi, like owner, the word, and then FY. And you can type in OwnerFi.
Wait, I'm so bad with this. Do you want to spell it out?
I'll put it in the description.
OwnerFi, OwnerFi.
Okay, continue.
So yeah, just typing that into the App Store. But you could actually just type in NFT to the App Store, and OwnerFi is the first result. So it's a pretty incredible situation to be in, because I couldn't beg people to use my app like 2 years ago, and now like the world has gone crazy over this.
Can I use your app to create NFT art?
Yeah, so that's what most people are using it for right now. And everybody is sort of just uploading their art, and I think it's amazing. It's probably the easiest way. My vision was always to make it easy for anybody to use this technology, and so that's why I did it as a phone app, and instead of like most of these companies are having you do the NFTs from their website, and it's much more complicated.
So let me just ask, if I wanted to create a piece of NFT art and sell it, I would have to use your app to create a token for my piece of art. And then I would, after that's done, I would have to go to somewhere like Nifty Gateway or another website that has a marketplace and then sell the token on that marketplace. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there's a couple of reasons we did it that way. The main reason is because it's a lot of work making a marketplace. And people just want to sell on whatever the biggest marketplace is.
So Nick, OwnerFi, your OwnerFi app, it's the most popular app for making NFT art right now. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's as if we were if you just type in NFT, it is the #1 result that comes up in both app stores. So it's like if you were the #1 NFT result in Google. It's like a really crazy thing to be right now.
But you have competition. I don't have to use your app to make NFT art, although your app is easy to use. But you think the reason it's so popular is it's by far the cheapest way to do it, right?
Well, actually, we don't have competition in the App Store. We are literally the only app in both stores that you can make NFTs with. But you can make
the only app in the store, then what is this an infomercial for? You might as well damn it, this is going to be an infomercial. Now you're the only guy in town. Okay, continue on.
But most people don't make NFTs through their phone. So that's why it's not like it's a weird thing to do. Most people just make them on websites. So
I'd rather do everything on the phone. My girlfriend teaches online. She has people take tests on the phone. Who sits in front of a computer anymore? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't even want to stop, get out of TikTok. I want to do everything while I'm still in TikTok.
I'm recording right here with you on my iPhone. Please.
Hey Nick, how many NFT artworks do you think are made on your app a day?
Right now, it's like 8, between around 8. It's not that many because there's just not that many people, but they're expensive, so it's impressive that anybody's making NFTs on.
How much would you say it is per a dollar amount to make one? I mean, you need Ethereum to do it, but
yeah, it's like $45 for one. But I mean, so it's like $70 on OpenSea, and then another $100 if you want to sell. So it's so on my app, I'm charging like basically cost. I'm just people are just paying for the gas fees because I just want people to use it. So
I don't have to pay a fee for selling it on yours?
No, you don't. So once you import your private key onto OpenSea or on other on Rarible or whatever, you do have to authorize them to sell it. So there's a $10 fee to authorize them, but then there's no more fees after that to sell. But if you were to make it on OpenSea, you would spend $100 to be able to sell in the first place. Wow. And then once somebody bought it from you have to pay $70.
So if I use your app to make an NFT artwork, do you think I'm looking at getting it to make it on your app, then getting it to marketplace? Do you think I'm looking at about what, $50 total?
I would say $60 conservative. You'll have some left over, but if you just buy $60 worth of Ethereum, and then you have enough to do everything.
All right.
So I could make a work of art tonight and have it up on that world of NFT the next day.
Yeah, you could make it tonight. You could make it and have it up. You could make it have it up in a few minutes. It'll take like 20 minutes or it'll take like 8 minutes to get created, and then it already exists on those marketplaces. You can already see the URL that goes to those marketplaces right after it gets created. You can go to those marketplaces and see it already. Now you just have to sell it. Yeah.
This is something I wanted to say, Chris, for a while in this discussion, is that one of the advantages I see of NFT art and doing art this way is just the speed and the ease. I mean, if you're going the traditional route, you have to develop relationships with gallery owners. You're an artist. You have to develop relationships with gallery owners. You have to convince them to take you on as a client. You got to convince them to sell your work, and then you have to do shows. You got to get your work sold, and then you have to do what the gallery owner says, because the gallery owner doesn't like what you're doing. You got to change your art. With this NFT art, you just tonight, you get like $60 of Ethereum, right? And you stick it on the marketplace, or you tokenize your art, and then it's going to be on the marketplace in a matter of hours, and it's ready to sell, and people are looking at it.
And the cool thing is, even though people are, I assume, paying for this in Bitcoin, right? They're buying your art with Bitcoin?
Ethereum.
Ethereum, sorry.
Yeah.
They're buying it. You can convert that back into dollars.
Right, yeah. So it's only like another step. There's another, step to go back to Coinbase and then turn it into dollars and deposit in your bank account.
Because I know that's what Mr. Beepsy did. Beepsy Winkleman, he converted his $55 million cut into $55 million of US dollars.
Yeah, if I remember right, Beeple was paid with Ethereum, I think.
He was, but he converted it right into bucks. I read the article, you go, oh yeah, man, I'm not keeping it in crypto. Because, I'm an old man.
He's not a crypto enthusiast.
Nick, do you have any tips for people who want to, now I really feel like a show, but I'm serious. Do you have any tips or advice for anybody who wants to get started or make money selling their artwork in this world of NFTs?
Well, I think it's really important to put a little bit of effort into the NFT. So you have to establish yourself. You should make a series. Don't just make one. Make a series. Have them all be related. Like most of the big NFTs that have been sold are part of a series, and so that they're recognizable. Make them all in the similar style. Then you can release like a series of these, and then I put a little bit of effort, into them. Maybe like use a 3D rendering thing, or do them in some digital software that looks kind of new or interesting in some like computer digital way, like or just take pictures of your own art that you already create, and that if you're a sculptor, you take pictures of your own work that you sculpt. And if you're a painter, you take pictures of your paintings that you paint, and be consistent, and then advertise your own work, because you're the only one who's going to advertise it for you. So you have to post on your own social media, and be your own hype person, and then try and publish it from the same platform all the time. So whether it's mine or somebody else's, like you want to publish from the same address, so it's like always coming from the same address, so that people can see that's your address. That's, I think that works pretty well.
Let's just hypothetically say I do take photos, and I have an Instagram account, and I like to play with the colors and the shapes so that they're not just actual photos, but they're I have my own imprint. So, and sometimes I like to draw on like the paint programs on my iPad.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've worked in that medium. So then what would be the next step to make it into NFT art?
So if you're doing it from your iPad, that's really convenient because you can install the Ownerfi app on your iPad.
Okay.
So then your next big hurdle is that you need to get some Ethereum, and that's probably the hardest part of this whole process.
So how do I get Ethereum?
So the easiest way to get Ethereum is to sign up at Coinbase, and then you can just buy it with your credit card.
Okay. And then is it a certain amount of Ethereum for each of the NFT arts that you create?
Yeah. So to make one NFT, like it changes day to day because of the gas prices of Ethereum and how much Ethereum costs converted to dollars.
Oh, like it's like gas in a car. That makes sense.
Yeah. Technically they call it gas. It's the amount of Ethereum you need to pay in order to like get this transaction to happen on the blockchain, to mint this token. And it's about 0.02, or a little bit less than that, 0.015 Ethereum or something like that, which translates to about $37, I think, right now.
So I got I have my one work of art I made on my iPad. I pay about $40 in Ethereum. And then do I go to your company at that point?
So then once you bought it at Coinbase.com, you would hit the transfer button. It's in the top right corner. And then you have to send that Ethereum to my app, to Ownerfi, to your account. Ownerfi gives you an Ownerfi Ethereum address that is your Ethereum address in Ownerfi. And so then you would send the Ethereum from Coinbase to Ownerfi, your address in Ownerfi. There's a receive screen. And then once that transaction happens, you can follow it from Coinbase. Coinbase usually takes a while. It's probably like 15 minutes. And then it'll show up in Ownerfi. In the item screen, your balance will show the amount of Ethereum you have.
And then you spend it and make a token.
And you make a token?
So then there's a big plus button in the app. You hit the plus button, and then that starts the NFT making process. And it's just a step-by-step process. It's just a form that has the image at the top and the name and the description and the quantity if you want to have a quantity.
You can have a quantity?
Yeah. So some of these NFTs have multiple quantity of the same NFTs. So they'll have 10 of one.
It's like a limited edition print, if you remember our discussions about fine art photography.
Exactly. And it's really good. It's really useful for things like token drops where you want to give 1,000 people a copy each.
Now, Nick, I want to ask you a couple more questions about this. I know that you've told me about token technology. Within the token itself, you can't put that much information, right? I mean, you can't put like the full artwork within the token, most likely. Is that right?
Yeah. So most of these tokens, they store their data completely off the blockchain, and there's almost no identifiable information about what that token is at all on the blockchain. So if you own token 121, then there's just usually there's just a URL that says, if you want to find out more about token 121, follow this URL, and then you can get all the information.
So it's up to the creator of the token as to where the actual work will be. And I know that Beeple used the Interplanetary file system, right?
Can you explain what that is to us, the Interplanetary file system?
Yeah, so the Interplanetary file system is like a global file sharing network that allows people to share files based on their hash. So hash is a digital fingerprint that you take of a file. So if you upload two images that are exactly the same from two different computers on Earth, and you're both using IPFS, they'll actually have the same URL because they have the same data. And that's sort of the magic of IPFS.
Yeah, the IPFS network is decentralized, right? It's similar to torrents. It's decentralized. So the idea is that it will it's not dependent on any server, correct, Nick? So that's
Well,
why
that's the
it's
problem.
attractive.
It is dependent on somebody keeping those files alive. So if
right, but it is decentralized.
it's decentralized in that anybody can start an IPFS server, and anybody can start serving IPFS files. But if you upload some content to IPFS and you go offline, your content goes offline.
Right.
Okay,
But
so
most
that
people.
is why there are.
Well, there's
Go
just
ahead,
one thing.
Randall.
Okay, there's one other thing I wanted to say to Nick. Well, anyway, so most artists with their token, they'll probably link to their website. Probably, you would think, Nick, right?
So that's where the producers, the third party NFT producers come into play, like my company OwnerFi, like OpenSea.
Do you host the content that the token might link to? Is that
right? So we host the content, so you don't have to. You just enter in the data.
Okay, there's one other thing.
So
There's just one other thing I wanted to.
Before you switch, can I just ask him one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because while we're on this topic, so because Randall, you're so much smarter than me on this. So I'm a little confused. Like I have a website and it has a URL, and you type it in and you go to chrisandrandall.com. So what's the difference between like HTTP whatever URL and the URL that you guys are talking about?
So so the IPFS it's like it facilitates multiple computers sharing the same file. So if so you could pay somebody to host your IPFS content on the other side of the planet, and they don't need to have a different URL. As long as they're hosting the same content, and its exact copy of that content, then that content will stay online. So it's sort of like a simplified it's a way to keep the same content online all the time, and then you can verify that it's the exact same content, and you can.
So it's much more reliable than like if I had a website just on a HostGator or something.
Yeah, well, if the URL exists, if the content comes from that link, then it's the same content that it always was, because the link defines the content.
So it's the realm of authenticity.
There's an element of authenticity there, and also an element of sharing the load too, because anybody can host these files, and then when you get them from IPFS, like the network will handle where they come from. So if you've got like 100 different servers that have that content on there, then the network should be able to efficiently get that content from them. So there's authenticity, and there is efficiency of serving the content.
Okay, so Nick, just one little thing. There's a bunch of people using OwnerFi for NFT art now, right?
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me back in the olden days when you were, I don't know, a couple of years ago, when you were trying to get these your apps in these app stores, you had a lot of problems, right? Because
yeah.
Now, what was the problem? They didn't like your app because it had something to do with crypto.
Well, let me just add one real quick thing about OwnerFi, which is kind of cool about this. What we were just talking about with the hashes is that OwnerFi, the way I designed the smart contract for OwnerFi, it actually saves a hash of the image, not the URL, but the image on the blockchain. So you can prove what image was supposed to belong to that NFT.
Oh, I see. So your app saves the image, your server saves the image, but you
the unique fingerprint of the image.
What?
Yeah. We also make a hash and put that on the blockchain.
You also make a hash and stick it on the token. Stick it in the token.
Right. Exactly. When it gets created. Right. That way, like with IPFS, you're guaranteeing if you can fetch that data, you can show that string data, like the metadata about that, is the same. But with OwnerFi, you can prove that actual image was the same.
That's a great idea. Did you come up with that yourself?
Yeah, I did come up with that.
So you're the genius that came up with that. That's real smart. So tell me about the struggle you had putting it on these app stores.
Yeah, they have been a difficult. Apple is so difficult when it comes to cryptocurrency. Anything that's blockchain or cryptocurrency, they make you jump through a million hoops, and they are very strict. And it has been, I get 50% of my app updates approved by Apple.
Wow.
Well,
yeah.
it's because for a few years there was a lot of cryptocurrency scamming going on, but your app was completely approved. You finally got it on. Your app is totally legit.
Yeah, it has nothing to do. It is like a very straightforward, service for people, and it has nothing to do with like crypto mining or like crypto pyramid schemes and all that stuff that gave crypto a bad name. And this kind of thing, like NFTs, is like a very practical, I dare to say, wholesome form of this technology. And there's no reason why it should be getting denied. But
your app.
My app.
Yeah. So Nick, I made your art. I got my stuff with Onify and all that. Now, where do I go if I don't have an in at Christie's? Where would a normal beginner NFT artist go to display their art so they can sell it?
So once you make something in my app, you would go to OpenSea. There's links from my app into OpenSea or Rarible, whichever marketplace you like better, and then you would import your Ethereum address from. So this is it's not a simple process, but maybe we'll try and make it easier. But you have to import your Ethereum private key from Ownerfi into that marketplace. And then once you do that, now you have the ability to sell your goods in that marketplace.
So do people just go to that particular place to look for art, or?
So both of those marketplaces, OpenSea and Rarible, have massive communities, and that's where so those ones are more open. Then you have ones like Nifty Gateway and Mintable that are more closed sources, more closed ecosystems, where they only sell the tokens that are made in those marketplaces. So if you make on Mintable, then Mintable is only selling Mintable goods. OpenSea is selling every NFT from everywhere. So they have a bigger audience at OpenSea. So and they have a bigger audience at Rarible. So it's probably in most people's best interest to get their private key imported into OpenSea or Rarible and then put it for sale. You could put it for sale in both at the same time if you want.
Really? You can?
Oh yeah.
It's totally legal?
Totally, and no one is going to stop you. What would happen is the first place it was bought, it would get transferred, and then the other sale would. I'm not sure if it would collapse, but it would definitely error out if somebody tried to complete the other purchase.
So there's only one block. Are these places kind of like galleries where people go to check out the latest art?
Yeah, so that's another thing is you don't have to put it for sale. It's actually already so everything you make in my platform is already visible. Any NFT you make anywhere is already visible in OpenSea and Rarible, because you can just put in the contract address and the token, and you can see any NFT that exists on Ethereum.
So if I make an NFT artwork on your platform, it'll automatically show up on OpenSea because they're always looking at the blockchain?
Exactly. It takes about 8 minutes, and you already get a full page display on OpenSea of your NFT.
So is there like NFT art galleries where people just have exhibitions, or is it a different kind of culture?
There are. So there's people making like virtual reality NFT art galleries and stuff like that. So there's different ways that people sort of consume these NFTs for sure.
So Nick, there's something kind of like a gallery. Do I submit to a gallery? Do I set my own virtual gallery? How do I get people to see my artwork?
Yeah, so you could, you could build a gallery on your website. You could get that information from. There's lots of different APIs on the web that serve that information that like grab it from the blockchain and make it publicly available. And some people are using that information to put into VR galleries.
Really?
Yeah.
You can make VR art out of your NFT?
Yeah, so people have made virtual reality like galleries you walk through and you can see the NFTs from certain people or whatever. You can make a picture frame that shows your NFTs constantly, like in your living room. There's like any way that you can imagine you could use to display your NFTs. And NFTs don't need to be flat. They don't necessarily need to be flat images either. They could be MP4s. They can be GIFs. They can be, some people have made object files, so they can be 3D objects.
So they can be animated, they can be sound, they can be video.
They can be linked to any data file, right?
Right. They can be linked to it can evolve as well over time. You wouldn't want to change. You'd want to always bundle that original. If you're doing something like IPFS or an image hash like I'm doing, you would want to always keep that image around so you could see like what was the original art that was supposed to come with this. But you could continually add more data to the NFT if you wanted to.
Is that something where people can follow you once you start your own thing in that universe, like you would on Instagram or other social media?
You mean like follow an NFT or?
I don't think
follow an NFT artist's work or.
Well, you just follow. Yeah, I mean, if so, you could. The problem with the NFT universe right now is that it's very disjointed, and you've got like an artist who's minting through one platform, and then they jump over and they might mint through another platform, and they might actually be putting work out on several different addresses.
So then it's something maybe more like how Beeple is using Instagram and his 2 million followers, and then he leverages his Instagram followers to go and buy his work on the in the NFT world.
Yeah, I mean, the way that a lot of it is working right now is people are just accepting what they're told is the correct artwork to look at. There's not a lot of verification going on. There's Beeple links to his NFT, and now it's the official NFT because it was linked to from his Instagram. Probably moving forward, should be like official addresses that these things come from. I'm sure Beeple has been using an official address, but a lot of people have not been, and that's probably something that's going to be more important.
Do you think there'll be more curators and dealers who will help other NFT artists get their work out and be seen?
Yeah. I think, well, definitely there's going to be like producers who are like people who help artists produce art, and then they have like official addresses that always release that artist's work. And so it would be like a Sony of NFTs or RCA of NFTs. And those like sort of producers or publishers will help the artists, and they'll, because they're coming from those addresses, people will know they're more likely to be official, because those people won't want to spoil the reputation of their publishing address.
And what kind of person collects NFTs? I know all sorts of people probably collect them, but is there any particular distinguishing characteristics besides having a ton of money to buy art?
That's definitely the main characteristic, especially having a ton of money in crypto, because it's a really interesting one. If you're a financial investor, you make your living through finances, then it's a new asset class. And it's different. It's a diversification. It gives you like a new way to invest and spend money and own something. So it's an interesting way to spend money. That's for sure.
So it's like a younger, wealthy kind of tech person or crypto person, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's young tech. I mean, like the owners of large cryptocurrency companies, large exchanges and things like that are buying these, are bidding on these, because it's like a prestige factor for them. It isn't necessarily, art connoisseurs. You know,
well, yet at the same time, a place like Christie's, which does have art connoisseurs, they're getting involved now too, and I can only assume there will be more. It's actually an interesting question. Two things. One, obviously, Christie's is not going to be the only legitimate auction house for fine art. It's probably going to now get into the crypto art and the NFT business.
yeah.
But I'm also thinking to myself, David Hockney, who is the highest paid living artist in the world, for the last decade has been doing a series of artworks on his iPad that when you go to the museums and the galleries, they'll just have the iPad on display or a monitor with the iPad that shows the work. So I'm assuming he can take his digital art and he could convert it into an NFT, and that might sell for even more money than Mr. Beepsy.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially because it'll translate so well because it's a one-to-one translation. It's not just a photo of a piece of art; it is the actual exact
Nick,
art.
I wanted to. One of my observations is that at the beginning of the crypto craze, a lot of people thought it was worthless, and there were a lot of people who thought it was going to blow up like someday. And this is like a long time ago. I mean, I was one of them. I mined Bitcoin using my video card for a while, and I sold I think 0.2 Bitcoin that I had mined like 5 years ago for about $200, and I think that would be worth like $10,000 now. So
oh my God,
that was a huge mistake on my part.
Well,
Maybe more than that, but anyway. Yeah, I mined it with my video card. Can you believe that, Nick? Anyway, so it was my observation. So I remember those early days. People were mining it and collecting it like crazy, not knowing what they were going to do with it. So one of my observations, I think, is that some of these buyers of NFTs are perhaps people that had collected a bunch of crypto when it was cheap, and now they're trying to find ways to use it.
yeah,
You think that could be the case?
I think they're trying to beat the market. So like you have, I mean, there are art connoisseurs, like there definitely are people who are going to OpenSea and buying pictures that they like and NFTs that they like and trying to support artists. But most of those art pieces are going for like $10 and super cheap, and the people buying them they don't have a lot of money either. So the people at the top of this whole chain are definitely people who, as far as I've seen, are people who already own 100 Bitcoin. And then they're like, if I buy one of these NFTs, is it going to beat my Bitcoin? Is if I take a little bit of risk on this, see if I can beat my already appreciating Bitcoin with this NFT. I think that has a lot to do with
art collection in general is, for the most part, certainly in this part of the history, always a financial investment. I mean, even today, paintings, Damien Hirst, I'll bring them up. One of the ways that Damien Hirst got to be such an highly profitable painter is he would take a piece of work, he'd price it at, say, $150 million. Then he'd find 6 investors to all come in with him and pony up $150 million for the work. And by doing so, all the other Damien Hirst work that these people have collected goes up in value. So basically, these kinds of financial tricks, art as something as an investment, all of what you've just said about crypto has pretty much been how the regular art world has been working for decades and decades.
Right.
It's kind of amusing that the business model isn't that different.
I've heard that a lot. And it seems to me like that if you translate what has been going on in traditional art and how it's just kind of like a place to move money around and a way for you to sort of manipulate, like, how it looks like you spend money or how you're taxed or whatever those things are. If you look at it from that lens, I think that it is just a hyper version of that. You can say it's a hyper version of that. It's a more efficient, faster, stronger, better version of that. And it's like you wanted a way to invest in Monets. Like, here's 20 Monets. It's hyper Monets.
Actually, it's a good point, because there is a Monet that just sold 2 years ago for what was a lot of money from a Monet, which is $14 million. whereas right behind you and right behind me are a series of NFTs that at least one or two of them have gone for roughly the same amount of money, if not more. And no offense to the artists whose work are right behind us, but I don't think anyone would call them a Monet.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But I do wonder, as Christie's, Sotheby's, and in general, all of the traditional established art collecting world, they will want to get involved. Do you think they may come in and take away not take away the platform, but become the new platform for selling NFT art? Or do you think this was more of a one-off over at Christie's?
I don't think that those players can come in and dictate those terms. I think that like the cat is out of the box or the bag, or this is more of an open ecosystem now, and those big players are not going to dictate who which art pieces are worth more. Like you can see already, you've got CryptoPunks and you have like these early NFTs that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they are very anti-art world. They are very much only in the NFT art space, and they have nothing to do with any famous artists or style. They only have something to do with the fact that they were created like sort of offhandedly at a whim of like a company that didn't know that NFTs were going to be popular. So they're not popular because of the art. They're popular because of the circumstance. And
right. For the audience, I just want to say, CryptoPunks are a series of NFT artworks that were created a long time ago, right, Nick?
Yeah, they were one of the early NFTs that were created, and they have really bad artwork on them.
Well, Randall, I know you've been talking about for a while before we did the show, and I really feel it exemplifies that the culture of likes and how this relates to the popularity of crypto art, of NFT art.
I guess we're going to talk about the aesthetics of this art now.
Right, yeah.
You know, this art, it's like Nick just said, really. I mean, it's like this art, it comes from the internet. It was made popular by the internet. It'll probably maintain its popularity because of the internet. And so a lot of it exists within social media, which is like social media has like an economy of likes where everyone's trying to chase as many likes as possible. I mean, Beeple, one of the reasons Beeple, I was reading the New Yorker article that we're going to link to. One of the reasons Beeple got involved in trying to sell his work as NFTs is because he had so many followers on social media as compared to these other artists who were making big money on NFTs. So he thought, well, I have all these followers. I mean, why?
Well, he had 2 million on Instagram.
He had way more followers than like even the top NFT artists. So he's like, well, why don't I do it? I'm going to make even more money. And he was right. So we're in this weird art world where aesthetically speaking, the art that goes to the top is going to be the art that gets the most likes. So you ask, well, what kind of art is that? I mean, you know, I'll link to this article too. The artworks behind us, they're works that NFT works that have sold for the most. They're the top 10. I mean, some of them are I don't know, more challenging than others, but some of them.
Yeah, I think that's the right word. It's like how much effort went into them. It's not like are they bad or good? It's more like how much effort went into some of them.
Well, there's effort. There's also just like the intellectual aspect of. I mean, when I say challenging, I guess I mean the intellectual aspect of it. Like for instance, Banksy is like a very popular artist on the internet, and I don't think his work is very intellectually demanding. And you know, that's probably why one of the reasons it's so popular. I mean, you can't make like a super intellectual, heady piece of art that'll get traction on the internet, I don't think. I mean,
I will disagree with you on Banksy. I do think there's a certain genius to Banksy, and I can see with Beepsy, it reminds me of Goya, you know, back in the early 1800s with his monsters and gargantuan people. I mean, there's always been a style of art that is hallucinatory and makes fun of the leading lights of the day, a satirical style. So that will always be around. And in that sense, I think it's very funny because I honestly think so much of what we're looking at today is incredibly old. I mean, when the Gutenberg printing press first came out, at night they would make these hard etchings of pornography. So there has always been this kind of folk art or even fine artists who have made subversive caricatures of leading lights of society of the day for a long time. And I think the only thing different is the tools. I know we just did an episode about the Bernie meme, the mittens meme a few weeks back. And I feel like this is almost like a continuation on that, which is that the internet is the great democratization of art. So no longer do you need to go to a museum. No longer do you need to go to a gallery. No longer do you need to be the physical owner of a work of art, because I could get one of those digital TV screens and just throw any of these works of art behind me up and decorate my house. I can live with this art as much as anyone else. And I do really like what you've been saying, Nick and Randall, about how basically it's art has always been controlled by an elite group of people, kings, the church, the wealthiest merchants. But now you have a kind of art that will never be holed up in a castle or a mansion. It'll be art that can still be owned by a wealthy person, and the artist can still make a ton of money as if they had a wealthy patron, but the rest of the world has equal access to the art.
Yeah, I wanted to say, Chris, that's really important, because you can even see with Beeple's work, how he's improved over the years, and you can see how a lot of this work has just gotten better and better and better as time has gone on. I think the audience is getting more exposure. They're getting more sophisticated. I mean, with these open art galleries, I mean, it's just gonna increase the average consumer's appreciation and taste, I think.
And like any good art, it's going to cause the establishment to be up in arms, to say, who are these savages, these barbarians who are challenging the way we used to make money, the way we used to do business. So
well, we'll see
I'm
what
always
happens.
For that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But there might not be an establishment in art one day.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about these NFTs also is that the medium itself, the sort of like the tiling here that you see in the background or the way they're displayed, is it works better with some art than others. So some of these simplistic, like the Nyan cat or this more simple art, pops. It's easier to understand. It's easier to understand when it's tiled. It's it's more recognizable. It's more symbolic. So I mean, it's possible just the format itself just lends itself better to some of the, you get a really complicated oil painting or something, and you can't tell what's going on in it, and it's maybe it's not as good for this format necessarily.
Yeah, there's the internet demands immediacy of it's an aesthetic of immediacy, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I will definitely say that yes, but I was just going to say that we're at the nascent point, so it'll be interesting to see where things go. Randall, I just want to thank your mom for raising two very brilliant, very knowledgeable, very good conversationalist sons. Nick, thank you so much for being our first guest and showing us why we should have guests on more often. We literally could not have done this show without you.
Yeah, Nick, thanks for being on. I don't think you knew you were our first guest ever, did you?
Chris told me. Yeah.
Okay.
Chris told me.
Well, admittedly, I could do a whole other episode just having questions about Randall, but that'll have to be for another time and another place. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us. Randall, do you have any last words? Oh, please come again. Randall, do you have any last words?
No, I don't have any last words. Nick, do you have any last words? Anything you'd like to say that we didn't cover?
No, it sounds good to me. I mean, you could go, and anyone could go way in depth. This NFT world is very deep, and I highly recommend people dig into it, because I mean, the future of NFTs is going to be very wild, and I have no idea where it's going, but I think everybody should be aware of it. It's important.
And again, that's Ownify, right?
Ownerify.
Ownerfi. Excellent. Everybody check that out.
You can go to ownerfi.com.
Ownerfi.com. All right. Until next time, I'm Chris.
I'm Randall.
That's Nick.
I'm Randall's
Thanks
brother.
for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.